So now we're going to work on adding some texture. We're going to play with showing you how to make different texture brushes and such. Um, as a general rule, I know I did most of this modeling in here directly on the same layer, but when you're working with textures, it's a good idea to have the control of having them in other layers so you can play with how they're applied and stuff, and we'll go into that. But let's make some texture brushes. This is all just going over really quickly with various texture brushes. Okay, so I'm going to Alt-Delete, and let's just start making a texture brush. Alright, so let me go to a basic brush. That would be... This is what I call my old school airbrush, which is essentially designed to be very similar to how the old Photoshop airbrush tool used to work. So anyway, but I'm going to show you with just a regular soft round brush how you can make a cool texture brush. So we're going to click texture on. And down at the bottom of texture, here's the default textures that you have, and there's a lot of them. You can see by clicking in them what they do to your brush down below. But I really want to do some more sort of traditional ones. So if you click over here, now I've already put these on, but I'll show you anyway. If you click on the artist surfaces and you tell it to append, it will add those to your library. And those are these ones down here that look more like papers and canvas and stuff like that, which is all pretty cool. So I kind of like that one. Now you have the options. You can invert it, which will flip the light and darks of the texture, and you have the ability to mess with the texture, or not the texture, but the scale of the texture, and the mode that it's applied in. Say, hard mix can be kind of fun. Let's just have it be, let's see, drawing color burn. Some tracks kind of interesting. Darken can be kind of, anyway, you can just keep playing with all that stuff. Let me jump back here. Look at scattering, jump over here. Okay, see how I clicked into scattering real quick. I'm kind of jumping the gun, but we'll get there anyway. See that will move the brushes around, and you can also tell it how many brushes to have. So let's see how that looks on a page that's not white. It kind of gives you a modeled sort of. I'm just kind of flicking in there. Little texture thing. That's okay, but this is getting a little too uniform to me, so I would want to come in and make another texture. So let's go ahead and, or even change the scale can do some interesting things. So let's do that. I'm going to make the scale way big, and then go back over here. So that should vary it, make that texture a lot different. And I'm even going back in a little bit with. Let's go back in and play again. Let's change the texture. Let's give a little bit of something that's really definite like this. That's interesting. And you can also play with, yeah, do I want to, maybe I want it black back there. Back in. And if you want to be a little wild, you can let's see, let's go ahead, and I'm going to change the texture size a little bit. See, that kind of gives us some interesting areas of shapes. And if you wanted to go, sometimes it's interesting to take something that's like, it's really rough there, and throw in something that's much more of an obvious man-made one. Let's see, like, well, let's take one of these grids. If I take this, make it big, and just throw it down there like that. Throw here. Switch it to black. Okay, so let's take that. I don't know if I'm a big fan of it yet. Let's just do one more kind of splattery thing to it. Which I'm going to take the texture off, and I'm going to go back to brush shape. It's kind of interesting what's going on with that right now. But anyway, I'm going to increase the spacing. See how that separates them all out? You can go very tight until they're all clumped together, or out a lot more. And I'm going to make the brush a little harder. The idea that we're going to try and make a little bit of a splatter brush. I'm going to make it split off a little bit. Let's see how that low count might be better. Let's go down to about there. And yeah, so that gives us kind of a, almost like a little bit of a splatter. Okay, so I'm going to Control A, Control C, Control V. I'm going to size it, Control T, drag it out to the corners. I'm going to put it in overlay, so that'll let us see our guy. And now I want to just kind of, because I don't want all that texture in him, so I'm just going to erase through with a soft edge erase to bring back him, and I'll be a little sloppy. Because we just want this to be a background thing. This is kind of interesting. These little dots kind of give us a little bit of a effect, like there might be something back there. You could even probably go further, and if you wanted to really make something out of this thing, you could probably see how small I start making some actual shapes of a wall and stuff back there. Or you could even go the other way and let's see. Let's go filter, Gaussian blur. And really make it so now it seems like there definitely is some sort of structure back there. Maybe some lights or some smoke. You really can't tell. But sometimes that can be better. So, I mean, that's. So that's with, without, with, without. With. I'll keep it kind of with. All right. So anyway, but that shows you how to use some of the texture brushes, and with just the regular stock brushes that they have. I mean, this is all and you can get some really great, fun textures. I mean, you can even then, let's say we wanted to mess with that some more. The thing to play with too is the rarely used threshold, which I use a lot. See how that gives you really these hard patterns like this? And if I wanted to take that and paste it in here, hello, oh, there we go. Size it up. Boom. And then apply it in sort of a screen mode and drop it down. You can get some really interesting little texture patterns there. Again, I would probably erase through, or I could actually just see I loaded the selection from the area I erased in that previous one, and I just copied it up there, so I got rid of it. And maybe bring this down even a little bit more. But you can see how that can increase some of the strength of the pattern and stuff, and give it a little more of a graphic nature too. Alright, so I'm going to kill that, keep that layer. But again, look at this black and white texture we have. Because remember now, all these things don't just have to be for the brush tool and the pencil tool. You can get some really great sort of almost inking effects by using these same things. So let's do scatter. Brush tip shape, and that looks fine. Scatter. Let's scatter. About like that. Give it more of a count. And so that will let us do sort of a shape. Let's make it so it doesn't have that size variance. This way it will just take it again, and we'll add some counter, and we'll give this pen pressure. Remember to have things set up so they're actually working. Pen pressure. So let's see how that is. Still a little too much. I bet in a brush tip shape I've got the spacing. Yeah, let's spread out the spacing. That's the key. Okay, now we'll have more of a random thing, and then now let's go back to the brush sizes. So now I'll have little ones, and then big ones as I press harder. Little ones and big ones as I press harder. And if I want to make them even bigger, I just see. And I have a little bit of you'll see the sizes here get a little squashed and stuff. That is down here in the roundness jitter. I have it on pen pressure. So if I take that off, then it's just big circles and little circles. And if you want to give a little bit of noise to roughen the thing up, but actually let's just do texture. Let's go to texture. Let's get into one of these. Let's see, we have to change it. So yeah, let's subtract. Subtract is kind of interesting. So now notice the sort of, and I'm going to drop that whole scattering thing. Let's see, scatter. Let's see how, like, even if you were just doing black and white stuff, how you can get some really interesting effects. Again, let's say you wanted to mess with that texture, you can make the texture bigger to get some variance in there. See that? Now we're getting some odd sort of vein kind of things going on there. But this too, I'm going to clear this. This effect, oops, this could make, if copied into something, let's mess with the size again. I'll show you how we can use this to make a little effect on that drawing we're doing. I just made the texture even bigger, so now we're getting these kind of interesting other shapes going on in here. Okay, I'm going to take this, select it, bring it over here. I'm going to put it in screen mode. That'll mean the white show up and the black won't. Rotate it in kind of the shape of where our effect could be for this. Stretch it out a little bit. And there you got sort of a energy effect that you can control so you have in layers. You can make it more or less. Or you can, let's go blur, Gaussian blur. Not that much though, that makes it look more like smoke. Let's go blur, Gaussian, whoops. What's going on here? I think the problem is it's used to my big screen, so it's showing my Gaussian blur, but way over here. There it is. Okay. I'm going to drop that radius. It's cool, it has a nice interactive preview on this so you can see in your own image how it's working. So blur it a little bit like that. I would also probably filter and do a motion blur as well. The trick to a convincing motion blur is to actually get going the way you want it to go. And I still have that texture brush going, and I'm just doing some harder hits. I'm going to go back to my normal inking one. Just giving it some hard shapes in there. So we have the blurred shapes, and then we have the hard shapes on top of that to give us some interesting effects. So there's sort of a swirling energy thing going on. Okay. So then by adding some texture, you get more of a complete piece that way. You know, another trick for this kind of a thing is to always, you know, if you're doing this for some sort of presentation for somebody, you select the whole thing. Control. I selected everything, and then if you hold the Shift key, Control Shift C, it will copy a flattened layer, and then I did Control New or Apple New, and it copied the flattened layer into a layer in a new document. And I'm going to increase the canvas. First I'm going to make it white. Canvas size, I'll make it 6, 7, and then let's drag a quickie selection around it and do a stroke so you have a little pinstripe around the thing. It didn't really match up well because I wasn't quite on there, but I want it thicker anyway, so edit stroke. Okay. And you can see now how that frames the piece. So that again takes it to another level of finished, and then you can do your signature down here. That's not my signature, that's just a demo signature. But yeah, the other way to do that stroke I just did is you can do it also in layer effects, which is cool because it's interactive and it's not really finely plopped there. I'm fairly in fact, if I were you, I would do it this way instead. So let's go ahead and get rid of this layer and do it that way to show you, because this is about tips and tricks. So anyway, so I'm selecting it, I'm going to layer effects, I want stroke, pull it up, I want to make it black, so I drag that down to black. You can also type in the CMYK colors if you want, and see how it's interactive. I do slide around, it gets bigger, smaller, whatever I want. You have an outside, you could have it inside, you could have it center, and you can always just get rid of it too. It's there in a layer, so it's controllable for you. All right.